Hey, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for checking out this video. I really appreciate it. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Let's talk about the US women's national team. They played South Korea for the second time last night. Another win, 3-0 in this case. I'm sorry, 3-0 in this case. They've played two solid games. I think South Korea was a really good opponent for them for these first two kind of tune-up games for the Emma Hayes era because they're a solid team. They're not a complete pushover, so it's a little bit of a challenge, but it's also at a level where the U.S. should be able to do a lot of positive things to work on a lot of things that Emma Hayes is teaching them that might be different. So it's a really good choice for a tune-up going into then Mexico and Costa Rica after they pair down to the Olympic roster heading into the Olympics. And that's real. I mean, there wasn't anything crazy in that game last night. I think it was solid. I think most everyone played solid. I don't think anyone didn't perform well. I don't think anyone was an incredible standout either. I think it was a good game. They did have some moments where they struggled a little bit, where South Korea kind of had possession. Although it was dominated by the U.S., but there were times where South Korea had possession. They made a couple of good plays. Casey Murphy was tested in goal, I'd say twice. A couple of good saves, one on a free kick, which I don't know. I only played a little keeper, so I'm not a goalkeeping coach. I'm more of a field player coach. But unless you're telling me the height of the wall was going to be completely ineffective, it seemed like Murphy played a little bit too close to the wall side of that because that ball that she made that diving save on was not anywhere near the corner. But that's a whole different issue. She was still a nice save. She made a couple of good saves. Um, Sonnet and Staub almost back to back had some great almost goals in the box, which is really interesting to see. Um, I think Haran played the ball to Staub, who actually played a half volley on a ball coming over her shoulder, almost like a bomb to an NFL receiver, and struck it really well. Just put it a little high. Sonnet had a great flick on header that just went wide. I think Niswanger put that one in the box. But that was really interesting, and I'm curious in seeing both of those so quickly because they were in the run of play. If if that's specific to tactical changes that Hayes is making to get center backs involved like that offensively, because it obviously, as you saw in those plays, it does disrupt the defense when you're in the run of play, getting center backs making runs like that into the box. It's a very, very different look for the other team, as long as you're organized in that if it does turn over, you're not going to get countered. But that was really interesting to see. That did stand out to me. Congratulations to Rose Lavelle for her 100th cap. My favorite player to watch. I love watching Rose Lavelle play. I think she is the standard for what we should be looking at doing in developing youth players because she's just so comfortable on the ball, so good with the ball at her feet, and that allows her to do all these other things that most American players struggle with because they don't have that comfort level with the ball. So she can be creative. She doesn't worry about pressure. I love to see her out there. She had some nice plays. She had an almost really nice play, like 2 minutes into the game, but just kind of got her foot stuck on the top of the ball down near the end line. But so yeah, so that was fun. I love watching her play. Fingers crossed that she stays healthy because I think she's the key to this team going forward to the Olympics and then their next World Cup cycle. I think Albert was solid in both outings. I mean, I don't think she really stood out, but she did play well. She made some nice passes in possession. I think last night she had a couple of really good defensive plays on which she covered for the back line, which was nice. Uh, Overall, the back line played well. Niswangers played really, really well. Sana played well last night. Staub was great in both games. Uh, but what I really want to get into is what is this roster going to be? Because they have to go from 23 to 18. Oh, I will also say, unfortunately for Alex Morgan, I do think the front three was a huge disservice to Alex Morgan and what she can do. And it's not that it was a bad front line in terms of the individual players, but I think it was a bad front line in having those three together, especially and interestingly, South Korea played. They picked up in their own half. That's one of the reasons the US dominated possession and completed what 89% of their passes because they had no pressure knocking around in on at the back line. And South Korea also played a high line. So they really, really compressed things. There wasn't a lot of space between the lines. And going over was also kind of difficult because of all that rain and a very experienced South Korean keeper. When that ball bounced, man, it was just going to take off. So it would really, really have to be perfect. And by having Shaw, Morgan, and Dunn, you didn't really have anybody that was going to stretch the back line between those three. Anybody that could use speed in the wide positions that is really, really helpful for Alex Morgan to do the things she does well now. Because I know everyone say, well, you need a number nine to score. But if you've got players out wide, like a Rodman, you can move Smith out wide, Swanson out wide. Alex Morgan is a very, very effective facilitator as a passer. So when you have those types of players around her, she can be very, very effective. And unfortunately, she didn't have that in the first half. And again, it's the chemistry thing and who you're playing with. It is because all three of them are good players. Dunn's a good player and Shaw's a good player, but just that combination combined with the way South Korea was playing defense was not good for Alex Morgan to showcase what she could do. Although the first goal was absolutely by her, she dropped deep in the own end, made a great turn on a pass in the defensive third, and then made a 50-60 yard run on the dribble, forced South Korea's defense back in the collapse, played the ball out wide to Niswanger that became the cross into the box for the tap in by Crystal Dunn. So anyway, let's get into what is this 18 going to look like. Now, I have no idea really what Emma Hayes is looking for, which obviously affects it. And of course, we're not all watching what they're doing in camp, which may play a bigger role for some of these players versus games, because games you don't always get the opportunities to showcase what you can do. Um, and I also don't know what her numbers are going to be like. Um, for example, she carried seven forwards on this 23 player roster. Dunn, Macario, Morgan, Rodman, Swanson, Smith, and Shaw. Crystal Dunn can play in the midfield and on the back line. Macario and Shaw can play in the midfield, and they both did play in the midfield in these games. I think Shaw switched to was it at the first substitution? I think Shaw switched and played the attacking mid in the second half. Macario played attacking mid in the first game. So then it comes to, what is positional players going to matter as much to Hayes? Is she going to emphasize that? But then you also have to be careful because let's say you went with Rodman, Swanson, and Smith as your forwards, but then you added Macario and Shaw because they could play mid. So maybe you only kept three midfielders of the players on this roster because you think, but then you get into the trouble of okay, but every time that a rest is needed in the compressed Olympics, it's Macario and Shaw, so then they're not getting rest. Hopefully that makes sense. But let's go through what I think it might be and kind of what I hope it'll be. Head, what I think Hayes might do. Heart, what I'd like to see. Keepers, I don't know. That's another one. Not saying camp at all. I mean, Murphy made a couple of good saves, but really neither Murphy or Campbell was tested. Did Kingsbury not play because Hayes has already decided she's in, or did she not play because Hayes has decided she's out? I don't know. So I'm just going to say let's go with the two that are in, Campbell and Murphy, and let's assume that she's only keeping two on this 18-player roster. I believe they still get those four other players, but they can only be in injury. Like I think it was the Olympics for the Olympics last time because of 2020 that they made the change where the game day roster has to be 18, but the other four players you can bring in can be put on and off each game's roster. Okay, so I think the back line is the clearest to me, at least for five. Because see, I don't know if Hayes will carry six since it's only 18. Tierna Davidson, Naomi Gurma, Emily Fox, Jenna Neiswanger, and Sam Staub are my five. And yet I really think Emily Sonnet is very likely to be on the team. But I don't know if she'll carry six. So my five for sure to me are Davidson, Fox, Gurman, Neiswanger, and Staub. And again, I'm also right now I'm playing off of where she has them on the roster. So midfield, Coffee, Horan, and Lavelle are absolutely in. Those are the three. Up front, Rodman, Swanson, Smith, and Shaw. Now that's 14, right? Yeah, it's 14, so we have four players left. I only have three midfielders. So if I'm going just by the midfield, I've got to have at least five. So I'm bringing Albert and Johannes in. So what that's 16. Macario's 17. Ooh, and then it gets tough because you've got Sonnet, Dunn, and Morgan. Any of the three which would make news if they're not going to be on that roster. So that's a tough one. And on top of that, I got to tell you, this is where it gets a little bit of heart in it. I would absolutely love to see Lily Johannes be on this Olympic roster. Um, I've seen her last night, obviously, like everyone else, is the first time I got to see her with the national team, and she is very technical, very skilled on the ball, and because of that, kind of in a way like Rose Lavelle, she's very, very calm on the ball. She just does the right thing, and she has this look to her when she plays that is non-American, right? That she went over to the Netherlands when she was 10 to pursue soccer, plays for Ajax over there. And you can kind of see that in her game. Had a huge goal last night. Then that's a great example. A lot of players are going to miss that because they're going to swing too hard. They're going to try and put too much pace on the ball. She was very calm, very deliberate. Knew she just sort of had to redirect it and pass it into the goal, which she did. So if I'm going, if I'm going by the roster and where they are in terms of defender, midfielder, forward, how they're listed on this roster, Davidson, Fox, Gurma, Neiswanger, and Staub in the back. The midfield is Coffee, Haran, Lavelle, Albert, and Johannes. And then the forwards are Rodman, Swanson, Smith, Shaw, and Macario. Wow, and that leaves Dunn, Morgan, and Sonnet all at home. Interesting. Wow, well, we could go into this a million different ways, but that's kind of how I see it. I'm not sure the roster should be coming out, what, in a couple of weeks maybe? I can't remember when that Mexico game is, but it's going to have to be cut down before then. So let me know what y'all think in the comments below. Who do you think's staying? Is there anybody not on this South Korean roster well, the roster for the South Korean games that you think will actually be on the Olympic roster? That's always a possibility. Am I completely wrong? Is Casey Kruger going to make the team? Hal Hirschfeld didn't play at all. I don't know. Is Dunn going to make it because of playing multiple positions and she played for Hayes in the past? Is Morgan going to make it because you want that experience player that's been there before, because a lot of these players don't have a whole lot of caps. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content, and I will talk to you later.